Howdy y'all, welcome to the Booth Western Art Museum. My name is Lynette. I'm the Education Outreach Coordinator at the museum. I'm very excited to be here again with another live art lesson for y'all. So today we're drawing something a little bit different. I know in the past usually my lessons are geared towards like we are going to draw a longhorn cattle, or we're going to draw a snake or a wagon. Today we're basically drawing a landscape, but it's using a specific technique that we have an artist in the collection that also does this specific thing that I'm going to teach y'all how to do today. But I'm calling it Art Beyond Borders because we're creating drawings using some optical illusions. So this is my example. We have a beautiful western landscape. We've got a nice frame around it, and then I drew a Gila monster kind of sitting on the frame. So it looks like the Gila monster is like on the frame, kind of coming, it's not necessarily coming out at you, but it makes it look like the artwork has depth. So that's what we're focusing on a lot today, is perspective and depth. So before we get started, just a couple of reminders that yours doesn't have to look like mine. Also, I'll start with the fact that you don't need to have any fancy materials. If all you have is a piece of paper and a pencil, that's all you need. I'm probably going to be using some crayons and markers today, but just use whatever you got. But yes, yours does not have to look like mine, even to show you, because I will draw a Gila monster today just so no man is left behind. But I actually have done this drawing before in a different art lesson with like kids in an actual classroom, and this is the example that I used. So I actually drew a snake like coming out of the frame, and I drew my frame differently. So I even have two very different examples here just to show you that yours doesn't have to look like mine. It's okay. And then what's the last thing I have to remind you guys of? Oh, to have fun. We are just practicing. All this practicing that we're doing and drawing is gonna make us better artists. It's gonna push us to be creative and to problem solve and to see things in a different way, as we will see today. So I'm gonna flip my camera around and I'm gonna show you the artist I was talking about before we start our drawing. So here's your nice shot of our ceiling for today. Boop. All right. Here we go. Thanks for saying hi to me, guys. Y'all are very sweet. Okay, so this is the artist that I wanted to show y'all today. So this is an artist named Anne Coe. And this is a piece that we have hanging in the galleries called Border Patrol. This is just a little printout that I have done. But I really enjoy this artist and the work that she does. So she is a conservationist, which is a really big word, but basically it's a person who advocates or acts for the protection and preservation of the environment and wildlife, like plants and animals. And a conservationist is, it's that. And she believes art's a way for us to make change and to communicate and tell stories. And she likes to explore different things, like opposing things that are opposites through her artwork, like strength and fragility, something wild and something rational. And then also like the Wild West, like we see here, where it's kind of like this untamed landscape. And then also she has images of urban life or like suburban living. And she uses humor a lot through her artwork as a way to inspire people. We used to have a piece of hers hanging in the museum where it was like a bunch of cows and a cowgirl kind of standing around a swimming pool. So, which is kind of a good example of her using humor and then urban and wildlife in her artwork. But this artwork is kind of the technique that I wanted to show y'all how to do today, because I think it's very interesting. Because you see how it has this cow print border around her artwork, and then it looks like the frame of her canvas, and then it looks like this cowgirl and the horse are trying to almost jump out of the painting. But this border is not actually the frame of her artwork. This cow print she painted onto her canvas. So basically, she's like tricking our eye to think that this figure is jumping out of the painting and trying to come like into our space, when actually it's just, this is just a painted part of the artwork. And this is a optical illusion, which is just when what you see is different from your reality, and it's just a way that our brain likes to play tricks on us. And makes us think we're seeing things that we may actually, may not be completely realistic, like this artwork. So, now that I've explained her work, we are going to do the same thing on our drawings. And I'll kind of talk about different ways to draw perspective as we go along. But let's get started. And the very first thing that we are going to draw is our border. And I've got my broken ruler, trusted broken ruler. I'm not using it to measure, but I did want to bring it just as a straight edge, because you can kind of see on this drawing, this is not a perfect line, so yours doesn't have to be either. But I figured I would start by drawing a mostly straight line with this ruler as to create a border. Now I'm basically just going to draw a line that's like a little bit up from the edge of the paper. We're basically making a rectangle in the very middle of our page. And like I said, they don't have to necessarily be even on any of the sides. There we go, that looks pretty good. How close is that to my other one? It's pretty close. So yeah, basically we're making the rectangle in the frame of our drawing. And then the next thing I'm going to do is, I think I'm actually going to draw the Gila monster first, and then I'll kind of move on to the rest of the background. But like I said, if you, I know some people don't necessarily like reptiles, which is okay. But if you want to, the other example I have is, a snake, so maybe that is not exactly your thing. But you can also draw, if you want, you can draw like Anne Coe, you can draw a horse. You can also draw, last week we drew a Texas longhorn, so if you remember how to draw that, you could draw it in the front too. You could draw a jackrabbit or a bird like flying out of the drawing. So there's different animals that if you want to, you can draw them. The idea is that for the snake here, you can kind of see that I drew the head of the snake on top of this line where the frame of my drawing is, so that it looks like the snake is almost slithering out of the painting, or drawing, if you will. So that's basically the main thing, is that whatever animal you draw, I would draw it kind of big so it fills up this corner, like I did with the Gila monster, and then just make sure it's overlapping the frame to some degree. So for the Gila monster, I started by drawing the head, which is very similar to drawing like a snake. So you kind of start with like the mouth, like a rounded hill, and then it kind of goes out and creates, I guess, a really big hill. And then this is basically the head. The eyes will go here, which I just drew some straight lines to make it really easy. And then you can draw two like concave lines, curved lines, to make it like the neck. And then for the body, there's no necessarily right or wrong way to do this. I'm just going to draw like a big oval shape here, and then I'll go back and fix it later. And then I like to draw, because I know we have to add legs, but I would like to get the whole shape of the body in first, and the tail, and then I'll kind of add the legs. And Gila monsters, here, I actually have a picture of one, if y'all would like to see that. So Gila monsters, they kind of have this, like a kind of a fat tail. It's not like super skinny like you might expect a lizard to have. So, there we go. Okay, so we've got our tail, and now we can go back in and add our legs. Now, on my other drawing over here, I made it kind of easy on myself, where I made this leg go off the page and this leg go off the page, and this one also to go under the head, so that I wouldn't have to draw their feet. Because I don't know why, it's just like with some animals, like birds, sometimes drawing the legs, and even lizards, they're hard to draw. So if you want to make it easy on yourself, just pretend they're not even there. I'm going to do kind of the same thing over here. And then this leg I did have kind of propped up on top of the frame, so that it would kind of look like, you know, they are sitting kind of right on top. So I'm just going to create some little triangles for their little toes. And there we go. And now what you can do is, I'm going to use my big eraser here, but I'm actually going to erase the frame right here. Because you probably were like, oh my gosh, she's drawing like right on top of it. But basically that's just to make it look like it's overlapping. So now we've drawn the outline of our Gila monster. Okay, let me bring the drawing back really quick. And I'm going to go back over and make some of these lines a little bit darker. There we go. And then what you can do is, they have very cool patternings, so, and they all look different, but most of them have, oh here, I need to erase this line right here. Most of them have like striped, like black and orangish brown tails, and then they've got all of these cool splotches and dots all over their bodies. So you can kind of draw this in now if you would like. And just really don't even think about this. Just draw some good squiggly shapes in there. This is reminding me of last week when we drew the Texas Longhorn. You know, they have all of those cool patterns on their backs. And I think I was probably saying something very similar, where it doesn't have to be perfect. They all look different, and however you do it is going to be just perfect. There we go. Okay, so we've got our Gila monster drawn in the corner of our page, and now we're going to go back in and draw the landscape. Now, before we draw the landscape, I did want to explain a little bit of what Anne Coe uses in her artwork, which is atmospheric perspective, which is a very fancy term and a thing that artists use. But basically, it's to show depth in your artwork by manipulating objects and making them look like they go back and push back in space and make things look like farther away or closer to you. Now, a lot of times, objects, things that are very far away, like these buttes in this artwork, a lot of times they will be less bright. The colors might be more dull than the colors in front. You kind of see that. The horse and the cowgirl have kind of these darker, brighter colors than back here. They also have, they might have less detail back here, and those are kind of the main things. And even things like these bushes, there's a few bushes up front that are really big, and then you can see these ones that go back in the distance start getting tinier and teenier the further you go back. So those are different ways that you can use and create depth of perspective in your artwork, which is what I'm going to do now. So I'm going to I'll draw the butte in the background first. So the buttes, they're basically like these mountains with flat tops, and usually they have these kind of tall, spiky guys next to them. Not a great official, that's not really what they're called, but here we go. So I'm just drawing some kind of straight but not too straight lines. I'm gonna kind of go up and down, and then, you know, let's do like another, like there's another one over here, but you can't really see all of it. There we go. Now, I would add, now at this part, you can also, another opportunity to draw whatever you want. So you could, I had a really good idea, but I'm gonna finish what I was saying first. So you can draw different kinds of cactuses in your drawing. Here, I will draw a saguaro cactus. think that was the very first video we did together. Oh my goodness. That was so long ago. But here we've got our saguaro cactus. And this one I'm making that it looks kind of close to us, so it's gonna look a little bit bigger. And then here, I'll draw one a little bit further back, so I kind of moved up a little bit, and then I'm gonna draw this saguaro cactus even smaller than the first one to make it look like it's further away. And then you could even go and draw a teeny tiny one back here so that it looks like it's super far away. And here we'll add another one over here. And if you want, you can draw, like Anne Coe has these like very bushy bushes in the background here, so you can add those. The idea that I was like, I'm gonna wait a minute, is I'm gonna draw another really tiny Gila monster back here. So I'm gonna draw the head. I'm gonna draw it a little bit differently than I did the first time. And I kind of have it curved back. And it's far away, so I'm not gonna have to draw the legs in really big detail. Yes. I was kind of thinking like I could draw the Gila monster and it's kind of looking at the one sitting on the frame like, hey, what are you doing up there? How do I get up there? Okay, so, I like this a lot. So, whenever you're drawing or you're coloring, you can also think, you know, what time of day is it? You know, over here. Well, in both of these, I have blue skies, so I should change that for this one and maybe do something different. I think I'm gonna draw a big sun over here, and then I'll make the sky like orange or something. Make it look kind of like sunrise, sunset time. Could look very cool. Oh, and probably the most important thing is you can create a pattern for your frames. So in this one, I kept it very simple and just did like these kind of dotted lines all around. In this one, I decided to do some triangle patterns around the frame. You can also choose to do like Anne Coe and do like a cow print sort of thing. You could do a checkerboard. You could make it look like camo, like if you wanted it to be like, I don't know, camo and cow print are kind of similar in my brain. They're kind of like these blobby shapes. So really whatever, I'm gonna do the cow print because I haven't done one with cow print yet, so I'm not trying to be super perfect with this. I'm gonna erase this line now. Just kind of these, like if you spilled, you know, a drink or something on the ground, what do you think that shape would look like? That's what we're going for right here. Okay, here we go. Just gonna do this all the way around. Excellent. This is gonna look so cool when we're done. I'm very excited about this one. I like adding my other Gila monster in the bottom. It's going to be very nice. Okay, there we go. Look at that. We're done with our pencil drawing. So I'm gonna go back in and add, if I can find my Sharpie. Here we go. I'm gonna go back in with Sharpie just to kind of make the lines pop and make them look very nice. And then while I do that, I'm gonna think if there was anything interesting I wanted to share with y'all about this drawing. Oh yeah, I did want to make a connection just with, you know, the West, as we try to do here at the Booth Western Art Museum. But after the Louisiana Purchase in 1803, and Lewis and Clark's expedition from 1804 to 1805, many Americans wanted to move out west for new land and new opportunities. And the Oregon Trail was kind of the path that many people took to get out west. And they would take, like this cowgirl in this painting, they would take horses and wagons to get there, and they would usually start in Independence, Missouri, and take the Oregon Trail, and it was like 2,000 miles long. It was crazy long. But you could also get off at any stop along the way. So also I want to mention while I'm drawing, I'm like outlining these shapes on the Gila monster, and then I'm just coloring them in because the Gila monster has these like black splotches all over its body. So that's what I am trying to, do. I'm just gonna fill it in as I go with this drawing. And the Great Plains of the American West, that was like the gateway to the West because it was very flat and easy for wagons and horses to travel across. But then you would also get to hit some barriers as you got further out west, like the Rocky Mountains and the Sonoran Deserts. And out in the Sonoran Desert, you get lots of mountainous shapes and landforms like buttes and mesas, which we have included in our drawings. And in the back of Anne Coe's painting, these look like buttes to me, which are tall, flat-top, steep-sided towers of rocks. Buttes were created through the process of erosion, which is just the gradual, as it rains and there's wind and ice, that will start to wear down, mountains and buttes over time, and that's how these interesting shapes formed. And there are also things out west called mesas, which look very similar to buttes. They also are flat-topped with steep sides, but they are much larger than buttes. And a lot of geographers will say that buttes are usually, they're like taller than they are wide, but then that mesas are usually, they're longer and they're usually shorter. So that's kind of how you can tell the difference, is the butte is usually taller and not super wide, and the mesas are usually like super wide. And also this painting, it kind of looks like Monument Valley to me, which is a region in Colorado, a region of the Colorado Plateau. And one thing I learned about, which I thought was very funny, and I thought I would mention, was that there are two buttes in Monument Valley called the Mittens, which is what they've been nicknamed because they look kind of like a pair of mittens with the thumbs facing forward, which I kind of noticed in I got marker on my drawing, that's okay. Which you can kind of see on this, where it looks like kind of the hand here, and then the little like spire thing sticking out kind of looks like a thumb. So I thought that was fun, just that they were called mittens. All right, here. Draw faster, Lynette. I'm just kidding. It's not a race. Your art's not a race. You can take as much time as you need. If you gotta work on it tomorrow, you gotta work on it for like a week or a month or a year, that's all good. I'm just recording mine, so I gotta go a little bit faster. But not too fast. Here we go. Let's get the frame in here. And see, I'm not using the ruler for this part. So I'm probably gonna get a little bit of a wonky line out here. And also, so when you get out to this area of the west, you start to get some very cool wildlife, like mountain lions and jackrabbits, coyotes, reptiles like lizards and iguanas, birds like the red-tailed hawk, and also tree sparrows. So I think the wildlife of the American West is super interesting because it's so different than what we have over here in Georgia. So it's very interesting to look up and see, like, even when things are, even in the same country, they're super different from each other. All right. Let's see. Excellent. Okay. Cool. All right, I'm gonna have to wrap up in a minute, but I want to try to get some color on here. But also, I did want to tell you a little bit about the Gila Monsters, which is what I included in my drawing. We don't actually have any like paintings of Gila Monsters, but I thought they were really cool, so I thought I would include it in my drawing and tell y'all about them. But they are the largest and only venomous lizard native to the United States. I mean, they're not as big. Oh my gosh, I can't even remember what they're called now. There's like a giant, I think I'm thinking of like Komodo dragons, where they're like super big, like they're as big as the table I'm working on right now. Gila monsters are, you know, not like super big, like maybe a foot or so. But they have a forked tongue like a snake. They're carnivorous, which they're carnivores, which just means that they eat meat, so they'll eat like I think I read that they eat like eggs and bugs and stuff like that. And they have like this nail-studded skin, which are scales, but they're basically made out of like tiny pieces of bone. But I also have heard that they are like very smart, that they'll like remember places and go back to specific places like years and years later. They're very interesting, but I'll show you my picture again. They just look very interesting too. I just love the patterning of their scales. They're also like this very bright orange, which is like, you know, that probably means they would stand out, right? But even the picture that I printed out, you know, the orange kind of blends in with like the dark rocks that they have under them. All right, here we go. We're almost done with this. Gotta draw my little baby Gila monster down here at the bottom. Boop, boop. I'll give him a couple little like claws. There we go. So hard drawing tiny. This Sharpie is very fat tip. There we go. All right. Very nice. So also, you know, you can always add, I'm gonna do this real quick, add some little lines for my cactus. Just making this very fun. Lots of details. Some dashed lines. You can also, if you want to do some stippling for your deserty, rocky sand area down here, which is just kind of tapping, do tap, 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 of your Sharpie. Here we go. And do that just kind of all over. Here we go. Look at that. That looks so good. I'm so excited for this. Now, really quickly before I go, I will add a little bit of color. Let's see. I did say I was going to make the sky like orange to quote myself, so I'm going to throw some orange in the sky here. You could also add, you know, some clouds or some birds in the background. Here we go. Let's see. Here we go. I don't know why. Let me look for a crayon. Do I have like a purple? I do. Oh, I have a purple pencil. Ooh, you know what? Never mind. I was gonna say, like, I kind of want to make my sun purple. Not exactly sure why, but I just found a pink in here. I don't add enough pink in my artwork. I don't like wearing pink, so I don't use it a whole lot. But pink is a good color. I need to use it more. So here we go. We're doing it now. All right, there we go. I think that's a pretty good start. So I am going to skedaddle here pretty soon and finish this later. And I'm going to remember to write my name on it this time, which you should also do. So you can add it anywhere in your drawing. I like to write my name in the corner of my artwork, just so people know that I drew this and that I'm very proud of it, proud enough to put my name on it. And I'm going to flip my camera around very quickly. If I can find the button. There we go. Okay, there we go. Awesome. All right, well, thank y'all so much again for joining me for this week's live art lesson. I would love to see what you were drawing. I'm really interested to see like if y'all picked, different kinds of animals to put in the background or, in your foreground up here at the front if you didn't draw a Gila monster. What did you draw? I'm really interested. And then also just seeing how you used atmospheric perspective in your artwork. So if you would like to share your drawings with us, you can always use our hashtag #BoothMuseum and post it on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, or you can post it, send it to us. We will get it. I will see it, and I will love what you drew. It doesn't matter what you drew. I will always enjoy it. I am going to be back next week, June 30th, at the same time, 10:45 a.m., same place, Booth Western Art Museum's Facebook page. A lot of people, which I'm going to answer this time, because a lot of people will ask me in the comments, they'll say, well, what are we going to draw next week? I will break the illusion for a second and say, sometimes I don't know. Sometimes, usually I'll plan the next week's like the day after. Sometimes that's why I don't say what I'm drawing, is because I don't actually know. But I do know what I'm drawing next week. I have them planned out, so in the future I will be able to share with y'all exactly what I'm doing. But next week we're going to draw an eagle, and I'm going to reference a really incredible artwork from our collection. We have lots of eagle stuff, so I'm going to have lots of things to talk about. I think that's it, but it's time for me to skedaddle. This has been wonderful. Thank you for joining the Booth Western Art Museum and I as we work to share America's story. And I hope to see y'all again next week. So have a great day. Bye.